Hello and welcome to another episode of An Incomplete Reflection. I'm here with the wonderful and authentic Derek. Derek, how are you?
Great, Faris. Thanks.
Do you notice we're wearing the same color?
You know what? I did, and I have to say, I think we both look dashing.
Oh, I'm glad. So let's get straight into it for the name game. What is your full name?
My full name is Derek Brian Crosby.
Very interesting. Why?
Well, my dad and I have the same middle name, so he's called us Brian Brothers for my entire life. I think it might have just been for the pun.
Does that make you feel special? Like
Yeah,
you're the most
yeah,
important
yeah,
of
definitely.
your siblings?
Yeah, pointed question. When we were younger, if I ever got mad at him, I would tell him that we weren't Brian Brothers anymore, which was like, to me, like a horrible thing to say, and like a horrible proclamation to make. And then eventually I'd get over it and I'd say, Dad, we can be Brian Brothers again.
That was like your way to to mend fences.
Exactly. It was like the only sort of power I thought I had like assertion over until,
Well, like now you're an adult, like, and you were a child then. So.
Yeah. Now I understand the politics of it all a little better.
I see. Do you think your name fits you?
Yeah, I think so.
I think it's funny because we'll get into this later, but your middle name is Brian, but your brother's middle name is, Ryan and Brian and Ryan.
Yeah.
It's very confusing.
Yeah,
but
rhyming.
Why do you think your parents didn't do that for your first names?
Maybe because it's clearly a corny choice, but making it the middle names is like a little bit less, I mean, it's more subtle, I guess.
Yeah. I see. Because I think it would have been funny if it's like, who am I talking about today?
Yeah. Oh, man. I think I would probably be a worse person if like my first name was Brian and Kyle's first name was Ryan.
Yes. I think it would have been worse, actually, if you were like Brendan and Brandon.
Ugh.
Because it's like, I swear to God, there were these two kids at a Christmas party that from my dad's work one time, and they're twins. Brendan and Brandon. Who does that?
Yeah, that's horrible.
Like, I like the middle name aspect of this because it's like you're connected, but it's not all the time.
Yeah.
So it gives you a little bit of it gives you that connection where it's like, oh, this is funny. It's something little, but it's there.
Yeah. It's subtle. The names of kids is wild. We work as substitutes. My brothers and I, we've worked as substitutes in the schools, and my brother had two kids in one class, both named Truman.
Wait.
Both named Truman.
Like Harry Truman.
Yeah, but first name Truman. Two separate kids, completely separate individuals from separate families. Can you imagine?
This is amazing because their parents are probably millennials, right?
Well, you'd think.
But even if they're like Gen X, Harry Truman was like dead.
By years ago. He also dropped a couple nukes, so it's just an interesting choice.
You're saying that as if that's a bad thing.
Oh, good point. Yeah, my
bad.
But
let's get back into the name game. Do you think you would ever change your name?
I think the only reason I would is if I had to for like a stage adaptation.
Oh, yes.
Because sometimes you can't, if in certain unions and stuff, you can't have the same name.
Wait, what?
Yeah, in certain unions, like in the Equity Actors Association.
Okay.
Sometimes I haven't really looked at it in a while, but that's why people change their names as actors, is because it's like, oh, there's already a Derek Crosby. Now I'm going to be Derek B. Crosby, or I'm going to just kind of like add a name somehow, So oftentimes, I
didn't even know that was a thing. Like, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I don't think that'd be a problem for me.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think you're special and unique already.
Unfortunately. But let's finish off the name game with just one question. What city did your parents meet in?
They met at William Patterson, which is that in Patterson? Do you know? It's in North Jersey. I don't really know. Yeah. It's where? I don't know. Is it in Wayne? I don't know. It's in one of those North Jersey towns. I don't know.
Maybe it's Clifton.
It might be in Clifton. My dad's from Clifton and my mom's from Patterson, so they're North Jersey through and through.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I should have added that to the list.
It builds character.
But thank you for that security question. You can no longer use it because it's now going to be on the internet. Thank you very much for that. And we will be back for the custom section with the wonderful and authentic Derek. Stick with us. Welcome back to the custom section with Derek Crosby. And Derek, if I'm not mistaken, according to my notes, it says here that you're an only child who's never known what it's not like to have privacy.
That's
Like,
correct.
is that an accurate assessment?
Yeah, it's interesting to be in a sense of solitude for your entire life.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
That's fantastic. Yeah. Oh, wait, no, it says the opposite.
Correct.
Who would have said that? Who would have thought? You were just talking about
real.
You were just talking about your brother before.
It was all made up.
It was all made up. Just for show.
I'm a professional gaslighter. That's what it means.
Well, oh, that's true. Yeah, we'll get to that later.
Yeah.
But is privacy something that's actually important to you?
Yes, but I'm super used to not having it. Like I think the longest period of time in my entire life that I've had a room to myself was for 2 months. When
Really?
when I was studying abroad in Spain, and otherwise I've shared a room for basically my entire life. And so it's like I do value it. I value alone time, but like probably a little bit less than the next guy. You know?
But I think that like that builds character, where it's like you know how to deal with people compared to someone else like me.
Yeah, right. It was like, people go to college in their first year, they're like, I don't know how to share space with people. It's weird, especially when they're rich, and it's all like it's like weird and creepy. But for me, I was like, oh, I've done this my whole life already.
You're like, oh, hey, how's it going? You're walking in the room, just a towel around, and it's like,
just
oh
like
my god,
underwear. Yeah, easy.
But this is probably a question you get all the time. But what is it like to be a triplet specifically? Because not only have you not lived in your own room by yourself, but you have two other people who share your same birthday at the same time.
It's true. Yeah. I mean, it's great. It's great. I think that in this county, there's like a weird per capita of multiples.
Yeah. I think it's because we're like on average like a very rich county compared to the rest of the country. Like, think about like the Mississippi Delta. Yeah, there's not a lot of 401k people there. But then you also have parents who are getting into the game, so to say, a little bit later, and usually that entails having either twins or triplets.
That's interesting. Yeah, I think so. It's great. I mean, it's like kind of like having two best pals built in, which is really cool. We're very lucky that we all get along. We've talked about it, there's stuff, we've read stuff online or even met people who it's like the two of them are best friends, but then the other one's kind of an outcast. And there's always, there tends to be like, or there could be one pariah, but usually like, I mean, I guess it totally varies, but I don't know. I feel very lucky that we all get along very well. And it's taught me a lot about like myself, especially moving away and then coming back. Like I realized when I left my room and went to college and then came back to my room for our break and I was sharing space with Kyle again, that we like actually don't really have any real conflicts. It was just that we lived together for a long time and like have different sort of bandwidths for like organization and stuff like that. Yeah. And so I was like, oh, I kind of thought you were a bastard for the longest time.
It's nothing non gratis, like it's just no problems. But I know this story. When another group of triplets came to the school, you were matched up with them.
Yeah, that was great. That was a very unique day. Yeah.
Can you explain that just for the folks?
Yeah. So we were in 7th grade. I think we were in an art class, 3 of us, me and my 2 siblings. And the guidance counselor walks in with these 3 siblings. And she's like, so these are other triplets. They just moved here from Georgia yesterday. And can you just kind of like show them around? And we're 2 boys and a girl. They were 2 boys and a girl. Yeah. And we were like, okay, and so all day we kind of just had a little buddy. Yeah. And then just kind of miraculously we all got along really well. And then we all became friends and we would have like triplet dates. And it was super fun. And Faris knows everyone too. Yeah. All 6 of us.
No, it's one of those things where it's like I like how they were like, oh no, we got 3 kids coming and they're all triplets. What are we going to do? And they're like, oh, we know exactly what to do. There's another set of triplets. They're going to be friends.
Just obviously. Stick them together,
There's the triplet connection. Yeah. They're going to be able to do it.
And it really worked. And I mean, we talked about it. What if we hated them? What if like none of us got along and it was the worst and we just had we got stuck? But no, we all got along really well.
Well, like either it'd be good because you'd get 3 new friends or you get a rival.
Yeah. That would be amazing. What if we were all like, oh, am I not allowed to curse?
Well, let's avoid it. Yeah, okay, it's fine. Sorry. I'll bleep it for you.
Okay, nice.
But you're on thin ice.
What if we were all iffy and didn't like each other? We were all competitive and had that kind of sharp edge.
But that would have been like fun. That would have been amazing. Can you imagine like at the school they would have been like, oh, which side are you on? Oh, we're with the Crosbys. No, we're with the other ones.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. Can you? Oh, it's been a huge rivalry.
That would have been great. We'll have to go back in time to do that. But I've asked a twin who's been on the show about this specifically. But you have an older brother outside of the triplets.
Mm-hmm.
Is he like not mentioned as much or out of like the picture?
Not mentioned in like general discourse?
Yeah, like I feel like when you're talking, not you specifically, but like when you're talking about someone who has a twin or a triplet, and then they have like one that's outside of that zone, they're not a part of the show, you know?
Yeah, in a way, yeah. I would say usually when I tell people that I'm a triplet, most of the time people are like, "Oh my gosh, wow!" And then they usually say, "Who's the oldest?" And then I say, "Well, I have another brother." And so I kind of like I throw him in there. But but in terms of like the sort of like wow factor is just like, oh, a singular. I don't care.
Who cares about that guy?
Exactly.
He doesn't have the same birthday as anyone.
Exactly.
Yep.
Who cares?
No, but I wanted to know that because it's funny because I just don't know, because when I think about you and your siblings, I'm only thinking about the three of you because I don't think I've ever met.
Yeah.
I'm blanking on his name, of course. But
that's nice.
Yeah. But I don't really interact with him at all. So like it's one of those things where, at least for me, it's like you guys are just triplets.
Of course. Well, we all get along with him very well as well. So that's lucky. But I mean, there is also, there's always that, again, there's the ostracization thing sometimes with siblings, I don't believe this, but I saw a tweet one time that I thought was hilarious that said, "Dear adult twins, no one cares anymore. Get over yourself." and I thought to myself, I'll never have to worry about that because it'll always be a little interesting that there's three of me. Again, I like twins. Nothing against twins. But I thought it was funny.
That's good, and I think if you're identical twins, that's when it's like nobody cares anymore.
Yeah.
That's the one where it's like if you're like fraternal twins or a boy and girl twin, it's like, oh, that's like fun because it's like different, because it's like, oh yeah, like that's already different to begin with. But when you're a kid, you're like, you have someone that looks exactly like you. Oh my god! But it's like now it's like, what are you going to do together? It's not like you work together.
Yeah.
Like you do stuff together all the time.
Multiples are wild. Even I met some identical twin girls 2 years ago, and there's a guy there that was dating one of them. And of course, I don't know them. Of course, once you get to know the person, their personality helps to define them. It's very easy to distinguish.
Yeah.
But for me, I was like, the guy's here and the two girls are there. And I'm like, I don't know which one he's dating. Like, I was super like...
He's standing in the middle of them.
Yeah, I was like, this feels super weird as an outsider. But it's, it's just...
I like the idea that like, anytime they meet someone new, they're like, all right, put your hand around the one that's not the girlfriend.
Yeah,
like, please.
Exactly.
That would be so fun.
That would be nuts for all of us.
But let's switch the topic really quickly. You went gallivanting in Europe. What countries did you visit? And can you say that in the order of their population from largest to smallest, please?
Easily. Population? Absolutely not.
Yeah, no, but just go in order of like however you like, or whatever.
Sure. Okay. So I had a great opportunity to go to Germany for a while and work as an actor.
We're going to get that later.
Sorry.
No Germany.
Sorry.
He's not reading the notes. That's the good thing.
I didn't cheat. Okay. So I so I started in Germany, and then I went to Denmark. I went to Poland. I went to the Netherlands. I went to Belgium. And then I went to the Czech Republic. I went to Switzerland. I went to France. I went to Spain. I went to Italy. I went to Hungary, and I went to England.
Oh, wow. That's a very exhaustive list. But you were in Europe for how long?
10 months.
10 months. Oh, wow. But also, you brought this up earlier. You studied abroad in Spain. What was that like to like have to leave so abruptly during COVID?
Oh, yeah. That was a crazy time. So I was abroad in 2020, of course. Yeah. And in Europe, I had friends all over the continent, and the people in Italy had to leave first, and we were like, oh, that sucks for them, but at least we're still here. Then the people in France, and then the people in Spain, and then it all kind of just fell apart. So we all kind of knew it was happening, but I had really romanticized this idea of going to Europe because I'd never been there. So I was like, I'm going to go there, and I was 20. Right? I'm going to go there, and I'm going to change, and I'm going to turn into this like mature person,
adult,
an adult and whatever, and then it all sort of just all of the romance of it just got completely disrupted, and I sort of I became very kind of cynical, and then I came home and I was like, well, at least I'm alive, in lieu of the circumstances.
That's kind of the nice part when your life collapses around you, or like the image that you invent around your life. You're like, oh, I'm alive still. So,
yeah, I'm still here, and I'm I'm still breathing. I can't really. I actually, as upset as I am, I can't really complain.
You're like, I can't. I remember I was actually visiting Kyle. It was me, Mr. Cook, we'll say, and then Kyle. We were hanging out, and I think your parents were gonna come and visit you.
Yeah,
like, literally right before, like a week before.
Yeah,
like,
there was, and they had never been either.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was gonna be their first European trip. They were super disappointed. And again, these are like clearly first world problems, but at the time it was very like,
You're like, I already paid for my flight.
Yeah,
I gotta go.
Yeah, I was promised 4 months. I only got 2. My Spanish would have been so much better.
Oh yeah, that's true.
You're
like, I was practicing for so long.
I was hoping I would really get to hone in on the skills.
Yeah, and you're like, I really wanted to practice my lisp.
Yeah, exactly. My Barcelona.
Yeah,
you can't say that here. Everyone will laugh at you if you use the lisp.
What city were you mainly centered in? Barcelona? Madrid. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Was it mainly like New York, or was it like? Did it have a different energy?
I mean, I would say it's more urban than kind of like metropolitan than Barca.
Okay.
And so I would say, it leans more New York, yeah.
Okay. I'm planning a trip of my own, so that's good advice. But let's go through some of the other places. Were there any countries or like specific locations where you're like, you know what, America's not that bad?
In just the sense of the overall,
like you see something and you're like, oh, it's like, I feel like young people in general, they're like, oh, Europe's amazing. Like you get everything you want. It's beautiful. Like the city streets. And then when you actually get there, I think it's called like Paris syndrome. When you actually get there and you see it and you're like, oh yeah, there's like dirt and there's litter in the streets. And
you're right. Sure. Yeah. I mean, I have a lot of wanderlust. So I sort of feel like anywhere I go, I'm going to just be optimistic about it. And that's, I mean, like, I don't know. I feel like that's an interesting question because there's like every city and every place is a multiplicity, and poverty is ubiquitous. And so it's sort of like, no matter what happens, I could go to any city here, big or large, like small or large, any city in Europe, and I'm going to see kind of like the various like class disparities, and of course there's different intersections depending on what city you're in and what country you're in. Yeah. But I mean, there was a couple cities I went to and I was like, man, I don't like it. Like I don't like it here. It's like kind of grim and like,
you're like, the weather plus look at the people.
Yeah, I'm like, the people are mean, and it's, I mean, people. I went to France. I didn't go to Paris, but some people are like, I can't stand the Parisians. They're all so uppity and blah 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 blah. And then I have other people there. I've talked to people who are like, I love the people there. They're so nice. So that's a good question. I would say that I was super eager to be there, and so I didn't really like miss America. Yeah. Other than the people, like my community.
Yeah, I think that's big. That's always what I think is funny. I work in New York, and a lot of young people, they're like, oh, why don't you move to the city? And I'm like, why am I going to move away from all my friends? Yeah. You're like, why am I going to move away from all the people that I know and have to like start over?
For like many, many thousands of dollars.
Yeah, well, that's not even talking about that.
Well, right,
yeah. Money is a totally different thing, but it's like, even if it was even if I had $1 million, I'd be like, I gotta have a helicopter. I gotta be able to get in and out quick.
It depends where the squad is located.
That's true. Yeah, it's like, are they gonna be able to come? Okay, good. But let's continue here. You were part of an acting troupe of some kind in Germany. Mm-hmm. Like, was it any different from being in a troupe of monkeys?
Oh, that's a great question. There's in some ways yes, and in some ways no, because monkeys are impulsive and ravenous and occasionally selfish.
Yes,
but I mean, yeah.
And you're thinking of specific people when you were saying that.
What?
Who's to say? But let's just get back to really quick while we're discussing the countries. When you were going throughout Germany for this the acting troupe, right? Did you go across Germany, or was it mainly like in the west or the east, north, south, or was it all over the place?
Sure. So I worked for a touring company that's British, and so I was surrounded by British people, which was hilarious. Yeah. And fun. And basically groups of 4 actors go out on tour in various regions throughout Germany, and I was kind of in the northwest region. But sometimes there would be like, oh, we got a booking in a school, like 5.5 hours away from where you are right now. Yeah. You have to drive there tomorrow, and then the next day you're going to perform. So I bounced around, but I was kind of mainly based
like Hamburg.
Yeah, Hamburg, Cologne, Dusseldorf. That's sort of like
Okay.
over there. Yeah.
Because I was gonna ask, it's like, did you get to see the difference between like East and West Germany?
Yes,
Okay,
that
good.
was fascinating. Yeah, and I trained in the West in
Yeah.
a small town called Soest that was kind of close to Dortmund.
Okay.
And then we trained for a month. That was in
Mhm.
the West. It was great. And then we immediately went all the way east to do our first show. And we were like 2 hours outside of Berlin in like a small village.
Yeah.
And the streets are cobble. You know, like it's just like the infrastructure is worse. It's older.
Yeah.
It's actually like I was like it's gonna be so like subtle, and I need to really put on like my historical eye.
Yeah.
But it was very direct. It was really really fascinating.
Because you also like, it's funny you say that, because they usually just focus on, like West Berlin and East Berlin are so different, but it's like going around the country versus like going in the west of the country, going to see like more like cities that I think a lot of Americans will visit, versus where it's like their version of the Midwest or the Rust Belt. In a sense.
Why would you go there exactly?
It's interesting to see.
Yeah. Certainly one of the most interesting parts of the job was getting to go to towns that I would never like vacation in like a farm village, you know. And I was at so many random German farm villages.
Yeah. they're like, stay for the night, and you're like, why?
No.
you're like, why?
I would not like that. Yeah.
But what was the like opportunity like there? Like, what were you doing?
I was doing theater for kids.
Okay.
Which was super fun. And so the company makes its own plays or adaptations of Shakespeare's or other classics, you know. So I did 3 plays for 3 different age groups. Kids that were like 10 and 11, then 14, 15, and then 16, 17, 18, 19.
Okay.
Yeah, and so it was fun because I got to, it wasn't like doing the same exact thing every single day. I could be doing 3 of the same show, or I could be doing all 3 different shows. I could have 5 days off, and then all of a sudden have to hop on back on and do all these shows and have different variety. And so it was very all over the place, and the unpredictability of it was fun. Because I was like, and you know, it's English plays to kind of help students with their English comprehension.
Yes.
So for the 10th or the 10-year-olds,
yeah,
it's like, my apple is red, you know, but then we're doing other kind of classical renditions for kids who have had English classes for like 10 years.
Yeah.
And so you kind of have to put on multiple hats. Yeah.
I like the idea of like going in at the beginning of the day and you're like, oh, like I doing like Shakespeare, and it's like, and then like doing like a very dramatic scene, like Julius Caesar, right? And then going later, it's like, how was the farm? It was good.
Exactly.
Yeah,
oh my! Yeah, the turnarounds would literally do. We did a Jekyll and Hyde, which is a super dramatic piece. So it'd be like Jekyll and Hyde show for 10-year-olds, Jekyll and Hyde again, and so it's just you know.
Well, it got your like, it got you going. That's the nice part, at least.
Yeah, it was great.
You were no calm, or like no not calmness, but it's like like you said, the unpredictability made it like fun. So you got to get to turn on. You get to be like, all right, I'm in it. I'm on it.
Exactly. And that's always a good thing with acting, is when you're not thinking and you just kind of trust what you're doing.
I was also going to ask, because going back to the East and West, is that like, were the kids in the West better at speaking English or understanding than the kids in the East? Were you able to tell that?
A little bit. I would say I don't think I could say 1-to-1 yes, but I would say that in some. I was going to say actually that you can see the class differences in some places. So I'd go somewhere in the West and it'd be like, here's like a beautiful auditorium, and then I'd go somewhere in the East and it'd be like, we have like a dinky gym for you to perform in. You know? So you could really, like, the resources were there a lot of the times. And actually, if I remember correctly, my company did say like, you need to really be aware of what region you're in, and because proficiency is super like varying, and that was part of the interesting thing about being in that specific country, of course, is that like the history is so recent that we're still really seeing the effects of it all the time, you know?
Oh, sorry, I got like ready and then I swallowed, but yeah, I think the history, I think a lot of people focus on World War II, but like the Cold War like is really what designed Germany to be what it is today, because it's like, of course, everything builds up into stuff, but it's like the fact that it was East versus West, and like how Germans saw themselves, especially in the East, where I think you saw, like, I was reading or I was watching a documentary, and they were saying a lot of East Germans are like poorer, but they feel like they have this longing for East Germany because it gave them like a common purpose compared to like the West, where it's like everyone's kind of out for themselves. And it's one of those things where it's like there's still that tension of being like, hey, you think you're better than us.
Yeah, certainly.
Yeah.
I could I could sort of like feel that difference depending on where you were, and you I talk to people, and they're like, oh yeah, you're tourists, kind of, you're Americans, or Canadians or whatever. Where like, what did you see or where have you been? And we had one teacher that was in the East somewhere, and we were like, well, we went to Berlin, we loved Berlin, and he was like, Berlin. Poor but sexy, and we were like, yeah.
So amazing.
So it's interesting,
poor but sexy for Berlin.
Listening to the way they describe it, it's great.
I think you got to be funny to live in Germany to begin with, because otherwise it's going to be like the more you look at it, you're like, oh no.
You have to be able to have a sense of yeah. Can't be too self-righteous.
But let's keep going with the kids that you acted in front of. I don't know who let you do that, but. Were the kids more interested in you being an American, or were they more interested in the actual material?
Like 96% of the time in us being American. My company was comprised of, in the beginning, 2 Americans, a Canadian, and a Welsh girl. And it was great. It was fun. And the Q&As, we did Q&As after every show. And those are some of the most fascinating parts. Because
they have this idea, like how we have an idea of like Germany and France and England. They have the same thing for us. Yeah. Like they're like, we're cowboys who have guns and kill each other.
Exactly. Yeah, which is fascinating.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think I told you this. The second day on the job, second school I was at, we were doing our production of Jekyll and Hyde for the older kids.
Yeah.
And then we did the Q&A afterwards, and so they're all much more proficient. And this one kid wouldn't stop asking questions, and you could tell he was like one of those kids who was really fascinated by kind of geopolitics.
Yeah.
And so he was like, so, Derek, being from America, do you get shot at a lot? And everyone was kind of just like...
Everyone like groans. They're like, please.
And we all sort of just looked at each other. We were like, good. No, but I see why you would say that. And he like kind of kept pressing.
Yeah,
it was really fascinating.
You got to dodge questions.
Yeah, sort of. It's like, the guns and schools question. That's good. We're really known for that.
Yeah, you're like, I'm glad we're like. Why don't we turn the question back to me?
Yeah, exactly. Can you like the kid? I have the 10-year-olds that they're like, what is your favorite color? Do you play Fortnite? Like all these questions that they're like, yes, no, haha. Yeah.
It's like very superficial, and he's like, I want to like start some stuff,
Right.
Like,
yeah, exactly. And of course, we are being an American is, and obviously can be a tenuous thing.
Yeah.
And the kids who really do their research and or are studying certain things. And actually I was talking to a teacher, and she was like, the thesis for our 8th graders is, we're studying America, and the thesis is it the American dream or the American nightmare? And I was like, that's fascinating.
We would never do that here.
Because we would never do that, because we're too prideful. So it's like we kind of need to like train our eye to do that, and I found it to be fascinating. So a lot of the times the kids, they were because our culture is so all over the place, and like just our kind of handprint on the arts and on geopolitics and things like that, and being a superpower and all this stuff.
Yeah,
there was always like I've never met an American before, so that's a really interesting thing. But of course, like it was sparsely ever like, I love America, so I love you for being an American.
No, they're like, I find you very interesting.
Exactly.
There's a big difference.
Exactly. It's like, yeah, you come from this place that has had quite a stamp on the world.
Yeah. Yeah. There's no room for error in answering those questions.
No,
I assume.
No. And some of the kids were really like talking about war and like asking, and crazy.
Well, it's not like America has anything to like atone for.
No, you're kidding. We've been perfect since day one.
No, never. But let's go into this. Did you always think you were going to do like acting?
No. I think I really fell in love with acting when I was 14. And before then, I was like, I'm not. It's not my speed.
What? How so?
I don't know. I think I was kind of shy and just unaware of what I wanted to do with myself. And my older brother was like, just audition for this program, like the vocational.
Yes.
And I was like, fine.
Like you talk as a 14-year-old. Fine.
I was like, fine. It sounds stupid and lame, but I'm gonna do it anyway. And then I auditioned, and I got in.
Yeah.
And I was like, I guess I'm gonna try it. And then I went, and I was like, oh, this is the first year. I was like, I really love this a lot. And then by the end of the second year, I think I was like, wow, now I want to
Wow.
do this forever. And then I went to college.
Well, what is that supposed to mean?
Oh, it's just I've been paying for it for a while.
Oh, well, that's true. It's different when you're paying for it versus when you just get to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Especially with such a kind of unpredictable career path.
Yeah, that kind of gets into my question. It's like, did you see yourself as like a risk taker, like when you were young? Like, did you think you were gonna do something that was like more risky versus more like stable?
Yeah, no, I think like when I was 10, I was like, I want to be a gym teacher, And
Are you serious?
Yeah, because everyone, when they're little, you have like this sort of idea. But I really, like, that's the closest I ever came to like, maybe I'll do this,
Yeah.
Because 14 was still young to kind of have an idea of what you might want to do. And so I think oftentimes you hear people being like, I just couldn't see myself doing anything else, And like to some degree that is, I mean, I love it. It's like, it definitely like, it stirs me more than anything else does.
Yeah.
And anything else would. And I'm aware that I have to do other things. And that's fine. To like pay the bills and things. But there's the varieties kind of jobs and the spice of life and all that. And so it's, I mean, I love taking risks, and I love what I do when I get to do it. And I'm aware that when I'm not doing it, it doesn't mean that I'm failing.
Yeah, I think that's important because, like some people you'll hear, they're like, oh, this is a good story. One time I was at the Bridgewater Bakery, by the Quick Check.
Yeah.
And I had a TCNJ like sticker on my car, and this guy started talking to me. He's like, oh, I went to TCNJ. He was probably like 40. And he's like, oh, what are you studying? And I was like, oh, I'm studying communication, marketing, French. And he like stuck onto the communication part. He's like, well, you should probably change. Like literally.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait. I know you're trying to be nice, but it's like, you could say, oh, well, I think you should take these courses, like do that, do something more business, do something more science. But it's like, at the end of the day, people generally know what they're getting into.
Yeah, exactly. I get that. The unsolicited advice is so all over the place. And working as a waiter too.
Yeah.
People so what else do you do? I'm like, I went to school for theater, and I occasionally am kind of doing other jobs. And then they're like, oh, let me tell you. And I'm like, I did not ask for your advice.
No. You asked me a question. I answered it. I didn't ask you to ask me a question. Yeah, like
just shut up and order your appetizer.
Tell me if you want ice in your drink or not.
Exactly. Jeez.
But I would say for acting, people don't realize that there's like a lot of stuff going on like with acting. This is more from like my perspective. It's like you could do commercials. There's money there. Like it's like you might not be having like a very deep like conversation with the audience, but it's something that like if you enjoy this, it can get you to where you need to go. But like specifically for you, you're more of a like stage theater person, not just acting by itself. Like, is Broadway like in your head or not particularly?
Every time I get the question of like, what's your medium and what do you want to do? I tend to say whatever will pay. And I don't know. I don't think I actually had an interesting, my teacher in high school used to always say when auditioning 8th graders, what do you want to do? And they'd say, I want to go to Broadway. And then the teacher would say, and then what? Because contracts are only so long. Yeah. And so it's like you don't kind of apex somewhere and then, I mean, some actors do. Now you're famous, now you're going to work forever. That's great. Yeah. But assuming that that's what's going to happen is obviously it's a little foolish in the beginning. And so I don't know. I've done some commercial stuff and I've done some short film stuff and I love it all. I really feel like everything I've ever done, I never could have predicted that I would have done. And everything I can sort of to some degree trace a butterfly effect that led to all the opportunities I've had that are like largely out of my control. So I try to not really, like, I can have specific objectives, but I've realized that I can kind of, part of the adventure of it all is to just throw my stuff out there and not get too hell-bent on exactly what I want, at least yet. And some people might say, well, that's dumb. Like, you need to have specific goals. Yeah. And to some degree, I do. Like, I would love to be on Broadway someday. Yeah. But I'm not sitting here like, I need to get to Broadway. You're like, if I don't get to Broadway, someone's going to pay. Exactly. Yeah. I'm going to make it everyone's problem.
But let's continue with this acting. I have a quote for you.
Okay.
Acting is the ability to behave absolutely truthfully under imaginary circumstances. It's by Sanford Meisner.
Yes.
Do you know this quote?
I do.
Do you like it?
I do. Yeah. Sanford Meisner is a seminal acting teacher from the 30s, I think. And the Meisner technique is an adaptation of Stanislavski's technique, and Stanislavski is the father of modern drama. Okay. He created the technique in like the 1890s, and that's sort of like we transitioned from like melodrama into like, what if we were like actually truthful, you know, and sort of authentic on stage. So Meisner is kind of one of like he developed a technique kind of based off that, just like other people kind of throughout the 20s and 30s did. And at the Votech, my first acting program was Meisner based. Okay. And so that was sort of like the first definition of acting I actually ever heard.
Really? This is a perfect quote then.
Yeah.
But do you think it like is acting like lying honestly to the audience?
That's a good question. Lying honestly to the audience? I guess that's one way you could say it. I think it's obviously acting is vulnerable. Yes. And it needs to be personal to be truthful. You know, I think to some, and that could even mean it could be truthful, but it could still be BS. Yeah. You know, like in The Departed, what's his name? Jack Nicholson at one point is at a bar and he looks down when someone gives him bad news and looks back up and he's like, huh. And then he was doing a podcast and someone asked like, what was in your head during that really strong moment? And he was like, I imagined I took a Viagra and I looked down and it was still there and I just went, oh. And that was his personal truth. Can that not stay?
Is that how you do it too?
I found it to be. I was like, listen, the moment was truthful to him and it was truthful to us. You know?
That's the most important part.
Exactly. So the actor is allowed to kind of have secrets. Like it's about the truth, but not all truths matter.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, there's one way to kind of look at it. Yeah, that really stuck with me because I was like, that's hilarious. That guy just did whatever for that moment worked for him.
Yeah, in order to like portray to the audience, this is the feeling that you're expecting from this moment.
In a way, it's like it doesn't matter how you get there. It's just that you do. In a way, you know.
Just one last question based off the quote. Do you think the world is a stage? Like the quote on the Global Theater? Or the
world is a stage. Yeah. Yes, I mean that's a large. I think that's part of why it's such an interesting thing to like be pursuing that as a sort of career. Yes, is to sort of be like an investigator into like how people are, which like sounds like that's what I do. You know, and I think anthropology majors would say the same exact thing.
Yeah, a little bit too kumbaya.
Yeah, you know? Like I'm a study of humanity. That's like what I do. But I'd say like in order to like get anywhere, you sort of need to, you know, and just because you're staging things doesn't mean you're not being truthful.
Yes.
But obviously a lot of the time people are, but I'd say, that's pretty accurate.
Yeah. I always think it's funny. It's like, you got to study people that you work with because they're going to respond to you very differently than they do to other people. It's like fun.
Yeah.
You're like, if you say the same news to different people, it's so fun.
Yeah.
And that's acting because it's like people don't like doing it on a stage, for example, but they'll do it in their regular lives, which I think that's what, at least to me, the world's a stage, but it's fun.
Exactly.
When you actually are watching, it's a lot more fun.
Agreed.
Let's wrap up the custom section with let's reminisce.
Shall we?
So we were in the same sophomore history course with the wonderful Mr. Perlman when we learned about the formation of the first presidential cabinet. And I claimed, with no input from you, the other students, or most importantly, Mr. Perlman, that you were the vice president of the class.
Yes.
Did you feel slighted that I didn't make you the president?
No. I was aware that we were, and our cabinet was strong, and I was happy to be elected to that position.
Oh, that's one. You were actually elected on the ticket. I was only a cabinet secretary.
I do remember that.
But I'm glad you do.
No, it was great.
But let's continue on to the silhouette. All right, we are here with the silhouette. And the silhouette is, of course, a series of questions that I ask the wonderful guest right now, Derek Crosby. These series of questions give you the idea of what that type of person is just from these questions. So, Derek, are you ready?
I think so.
All right. What is the month or season you could live an eternity in?
Spring.
Spring, why?
Because it's perfect in terms of weather, in terms of time of day. I like a little chill in the air. But I don't like
early spring.
Early spring, yeah. I'd say like the first 2 weeks of April.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Where it's like things are in bloom, you know?
Yes.
We're working towards an abundance mindset, but we're not quite there, you know? It's a little chilly, but it's not too hot, not too cold. yeah, it's just a great time of year.
All right. What is your favorite color from the basic Crayola marker pack?
The purple one.
Why?
Purple's always been my favorite color. I actually, in preparation for this question, I looked up an image of the pack, and I was like, oh god, I love that color.
Yeah. You're like, color it all over the place.
Exactly.
If you had to describe yourself as a candy or snack, what would it be?
The Airhead Sour Belts.
What is that one?
You know the belts that come in like the pack, they're like the long ones?
And that, like, it's the inside of it?
Well, no, they're like the rainbow. The rainbow sour belts.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
okay. Why?
Because they have just I've always loved sour candy.
Yes.
But they've always had a special place in my heart. On Fridays, Kyle and I and the lads, we would always walk to the candy store by us. And I was like, I'd have like my $5 and I'd be like, yes, I have them,
It's Friday.
And it's funny because it's like, to this day, when I go to the store and I'm like, I kind of want some sour candy. It's like, I'm going to lean in that direction, like basically 80 to 90% of the time.
Yeah.
So it just speaks to me.
It speaks to you. Okay. What was your most recent lie?
Oh, so I'm a substitute teacher.
Yes.
I just started and I lie to students every day.
Good.
All the time.
Keep it up.
Yeah, I think the most recent one was probably when a 6-year-old asked me if I had seen Godzilla -1, and I said, yeah, it was great. And I have not seen that movie.
Because you don't want to get into it, and they're going to be like, well, you should watch it. And it's like, well, I will. And it's like, no, but I have to tell you what the plot is. And it's like, no, I don't need to hear that.
Yeah. Oh, man. I mean, the whole thing is about faking it till you make it. I gaslight kids every day. It's great.
Acting no less helps, right?
No, of course. Man, it's all part of the resume.
Do you lie more to yourself or others?
I'd say based on the previous question, probably to others because of the kind of like rate at which I'm just making things up to get around.
Okay.
It's benign, I think.
It's benign. It's not malicious.
No.
Yeah. All right. Yesterday or tomorrow?
Tomorrow.
Why?
Because I like the idea of progression.
What are you most excited for in the future, the general future?
What was my answer to this one? The general future?
Like not your future, but like in the future in some way.
The future in some interplanetary travel. Let's just say it's gonna happen.
Just say it's gonna happen, like the first colonists. Yeah. Like you're like, ooh, that'd be interesting. Yeah,
and like to actually go and kind of, it was like, we can all go to Mars now. Obviously, that'd be pretty expensive. But just the idea of, I guess I'm always curious, maybe less so about the travel, but more so about the knowledge. Like,
yes.
Fast forward 50 years, what will we know about space or the ocean that we didn't know before?
No, the ocean, I hate the ocean. We can't get into it now. But what are you most excited for in your future?
To think less.
Oh.
To think less, yeah. I'm always kind of working on myself. And of course I get stuck in ruts and stuff. But this year I think I kind of came into it being like, I want to think less because when thinking is a trap. Like maybe like stop overthinking? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. My girlfriend gave me a book that says it's called Don't Believe Everything You Think. And I'm reading it. And it's very helpful. It's sort of like, this is all completely manageable. And it's all like something that you can actually kind of take hold of. Yes. And so I find that when I'm working from a sense of clarity rather than a sense of fogginess, that everything becomes more accessible. And that's just kind of what I'm after. I think that's very good advice. I think I have to take that. What do you want to learn more about but haven't gotten to yet? Don't have to my answer to this one. Because you're the only person to prepare. Oh, really? Okay. This one took me a really long time to think about because I was like, I want to know so much about everything, Yeah. Everything. I want to know about everything. I would say something I want to know more about but haven't gotten around to. I think I want to. Oh, you know what? I want to be better at camping. Oh. Yeah, I love to go camping and I love to be in nature, but it's not like my forte by any means. Yeah. And so my best friend, you know who I'm talking about, loves to camp. And so I'm like, hey, we should go out and like let's drive to Utah or something. Just drive to Utah, or go to Nevada and go to Zion or something. And like let me kind of I want to learn by doing just so that I can be self-sufficient.
Yeah, no, that's big. Like camping, I haven't gone camping. The wonderful producer Harrison has invited me to go camping at a later date that I shall not discuss until after it happens. But I'm very excited.
Nice.
But very nice. If you could visit any time or place as an invisible tourist, when and where would it be?
I think Roman gladiator fight.
Among the plebeians or the upper class, where would you want to sit?
I think, if I'm invisible, and seeing either side would be fascinating, but I would probably go to the upper class just because it would probably be better viewing,
Yeah.
And just because I'm just so curious about the energy of that place, and then I could take a little stroll through the forum afterwards, and that would be nice.
I see. What is the most important or helpful advice you've ignored?
Wear sunscreen.
That's a good one.
Yeah. A couple of times I was like, I don't need to. And then it's like, oh man, like a world of hurt that was completely avoidable.
Like I had sunscreen in the car.
Yeah. And I was like, I don't need this,
All right. One last question in the silhouette. What is something you believe to be true but found out wasn't?
I think going back to the thinking thing, that I don't know why. Maybe it's like hereditary somehow, but that I came into myself sort of being like, I need to kind of think my way into actualization, you know, and manifestation in a way that's very like works from the head instead of working from the heart. Yeah. And it's been a kind of a constant little tug of war I've had with myself internally. And so I'd say that at first I believed that like the way to, I could look at it through any, through like acting or just kind of through my personal life, is that I felt at first like it's sort of all about like how I cerebralize things and how I put things out there and how I connect in that way. And there's room for technicality, but largely I found that again, my most sort of free moments are when I'm not thinking and sort of just like passing through.
All right. That's the end of the silhouette. I enjoyed all of your answers. I'm very happy you prepared, because most people, they look at like, some of them are like, I got it.
Yeah, I was treating it like a test. So I was like, I have to make sure I have like good answers,
This is like an open-ended test where it's like, you really could have expanded more.
And here. I'm like, oh, I should have thought more.
Well, no, this is what we learned. No more thinking. But let's finish up here. Is there anything else you'd like to say?
No, it's pretty summed it up pretty well. I love that you do this. This is a really fun idea. I really appreciate having the chance to come here and chat with you. I love conversations like this.
Well, I think it's fun. This is my version of therapy, because it means that I get to ask people questions that they don't want to answer off the record. But let's thank the wonderful and authentic Derek for joining us on another episode of An Incomplete Reflection, and I will be back with another guest at another time. We'll see you then.